Hello everyone, welcome. I wanted to film this productivity video from somewhere beautiful, so here I am at Belton. If you know something of my journey, you'll know that I am a mother. I was mother to a 15-month-old when I went to medical school. I've had another baby since. I'm training to be a surgeon. So getting productivity right is one of the things that has allowed me to function and do the things that I do. So we're going to get into it and I will share with you some of my golden productivity hacks. Let's get into it. Now, many of you will be setting goal targets when you want to have a jobs list, and you'll be thinking about things like how long does each thing take, what's the deadline for each, how important are they, when you work out how many of these you're going to do in each day. But one of the things you should also be thinking about is your frogs. So, swallowing frogs, this is my top tip. Swallowing frogs means these are the jobs that you really don't want to do. So often they're little faffy jobs, they're not very important, but they need to be done. Now, if you plan a jobs list for yourself and you stack your morning full of frogs or you stack your afternoon full of frogs, you're not going to end up doing it, because you're going to take one look at the jobs list and you're going to think, absolutely, this can wait to another day. So in terms of creating a jobs list, pick one or two frogs. Identify, when you look at all the things that you want to achieve, identify which are your frogs. And when you create your jobs list for that day or that week, spread out your frogs. I would also recommend doing your frogs first thing, when you've got the energy, when you've got the motivation. Do not leave your frogs until the end of the day, because they won't get done. So if you've got a frog and you really don't want to do it, that is the first thing you do that day. Tip number 2. Now, many of you will know that social media is a massive distraction. One of the apps that I really love to use is the Forest app. Here's its little icon. Basically what this does is the objective is to grow a forest, and you'll set the amount of time it takes for you to grow a tree. If you touch your phone in this time, the tree will die. And I will use this for the Pomodoro method effectively. So if I decide, so I only ever, if you don't know what the Pomodoro method is, it's amazing. You only ever study in short bursts. I use the Forest app in conjunction with the Pomodoro method so that I can time my Pomodoros, and I'm not allowed to touch my phone until that Pomodoro has ended. So I usually set each section, each Pomodoro, for about 20 or 25 minutes, depending on how heavy the work that I'm doing is. If it's really involved, you might want a little bit longer. If the content's really heavy though, and it's really boring and you're struggling, you might want to limit it to 20 minutes, even 15 if you're really struggling. Next tip, my friends, know your distractions. So if you're a person who's struggling with procrastinating or you're distracted, you need to know what your triggers are, because they're not necessarily the same as mine. So are you studying in the evening and you think you're actually a morning person, and by the time you get to study at night time your brain's just gone? If that's the case, then you need to rejig your studying to make sure that it's prioritized to be done in the morning. If you are a person who's distracted by loud noises and all of your roommates and housemates are making loads of noise, or they're always coming in and distracting you, then you need to take yourself to the library and work. And if it's social media, this is a really big one for me, because if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I'm on there all the time. You need to pop your phone somewhere else or use something like the Forest app. Do reward yourself. So you're working really hard, what you're doing is amazing, and it's not easy just to keep pushing yourself, especially if you're studying something like medicine, which is quite relentless. So if you are working towards something, when you achieve that goal, make sure you do treat yourself to something. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, it doesn't even have to cost money. It might be making sure that you take the night off studying, or you're going to watch a film that you've been promising yourself you're going to watch for ages, or reading a book. Maybe it's treating yourself to a cup of tea and a slice of cake in a coffee shop with no distractions and a book that you've been wanting to read for a while. It's really important that you do this, because we are not machines. We cannot keep working indefinitely. Do try and make time to get outside into green spaces. I say this all the time, I know, but your brain is not just something that can keep on going and going and going. You need to make sure that you're getting fresh air, energy and exercise, because it gets everything flowing. You need to think of yourself as a complicated machine which needs treating correctly. It needs proper fuel, so eat properly, and it needs calibrating. So make sure you work out the things that make you function best. It's really worth investing in yourself and knowing what makes you study effectively. Do set boundaries for yourself with other people. So sometimes family members don't understand that they're distracting you, or even housemates, if they're on different courses, won't understand how much work you need to do in your particular course. And even people doing the same course as you might not need to work as much or study as much at different things as you do. So if you feel like people are distracting or being influencers, make sure that you set clear boundaries for when your study time is. Plan your time with a margin of error. So, for instance, let's say you have an exam on April 1st. Whatever timetable you are setting yourself, make sure your timetable finishes a couple of days before, or even a week, 2 weeks before the exam. In this original timetable, what you need to do is build in areas for you to catch up, because life doesn't always fit a timetable. We know what this is, and the problem is when you've got a timetable and for whatever reason it starts running away from you, you're not very well, someone's going out and you feel that you need to go, and then you get thrown off your timetable, and then you end up looking at this massive timetable, and you look at it and you think, oh well, it's all out the window now anyway, I'm never going to catch up, and then you just lose the whole thing. And I think we're all guilty of that. We've all done that. So what you need to do is, wherever you create a timetable, make sure each section there's a little bit of room for you to catch up. And this doesn't mean that when you're going through you can think, well, I've got an extra day. What it means is that you can constantly stay ahead of schedule, but if you do fall behind for whatever reason, you can catch up, and you're not going to look at your timetable and think, wow, the whole thing's done, and it leads to a whole spiral of feeling bad about yourself and you're not achieving things, and it contributes towards burnout. If you get to at the end of a section and you don't use your carryover day, carry over for the next time, start your next section early, and then you've got 2 days or 3 days. So, it gets to Christmas, you think, actually, do you know what, I've got 3 days extra carried over, I'm taking a 3-day break and I'm not going to study. And what will happen is, not only will you get that 3-day break, but you're not going to feel guilty about not studying, because you know that you've earned those days.